You guys ready to get started?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully you're in the right spot. We're going to talk about managing successful virtual teams. And I did this presentation, my first, it was pretty exciting. I was asked to speak at the Adobe Learning Summit in Vegas last October, and that's where I presented this the first time. And obviously that was pre-COVID, and I've adjusted it since then and have presented it a few times since April. But here's a little bit about me, my experience. I have I've been in system support probably more than 30 years actually. Uh, a team member of a virtual team and a team leader of a virtual team for 8 years now. And if you're on Twitter, that's our hashtag or our @sign, FortechNet, and we also follow hashtag Fortech. So just some information about me. I started in tech as a senior level engineer and director of IT before I moved into education. So it was a good crossover and a good tech mix from going from understanding platforms to understanding educational needs and helping bridging that gap. So on our agenda, we're going to talk about what a virtual team is, communication, success, how to build one, how to manage one, and the benefits. So if you guys didn't see the link in the chat, this is where we're going for our activities. And so what is a virtual team? Really, it's a group of geographically dispersed workers. It could be in the same county, it could be in the same state, or it could be globally. It's just that you're not sitting in the same building. Hey, a little slow on that one. So on Moot Clap, your question should have popped up. So let's find out a little bit about what you guys do. You can check more than one. So if you're a member of a virtual team, and incorrectly, it is good. So, or yeah, nothing better to do. So you're just hanging out here, corona crazy. It took me a long time to find the perfect picture of that, and it is a FIFA sports, what do you call it, fan. So
I hit that wall yesterday morning. That would have been me.
well, you know, after 2 nights of drinking heavily with, if Montana had a Olympic sport, I think it'd be drinking. And I don't know if I can stay, you know, keep up with everybody on these game nights. So I'm on 3 shots of espresso. So we've got a lot of people that are a member of a virtual team and some people that manage. So that's good. We're going to talk about all of that and why it's great to utilize virtual teams. Now, I've been working on virtual teams since 2009. A great way to have this is you can get the best skilled talent and not worry about having to move somebody, or if you company or your organization can't afford to move someone, you you know, you would only have the resources of the people that would drive to your location. Flexibility has been great. My first job, 100% virtual, was working for Moodle rooms and 2 little kids and running support. I was able to tell the team, I'll be right back, drop my kids off at school, come back, pick them up, throw dinner on the stove. And I probably worked way more than 8 hours, but because I had the flexibility, it was just really nice. You can be a lot more marketplace, especially if people are across time zones. People tend to be more productive, and we'll get into some of those stats. And because we're so much more connected globally nowadays, it's a great way to increase your globalization of your company as well. So the more a lot of us are shifting from production to service in general in the economy, and you just get to expand your knowledge. And the huge one has been real estate costs, especially if you're in a big area. And in San Francisco, there's a huge collapse of the commercial rental properties in the last month and a half. So, myths that teams are not as effective, when statistics have been showing us, and my personal experience is that you can out-succeed performance of traditional teams. The funny thing about this is I used to work for the biggest VMware reseller, and they would not let anybody work remotely. But they sold Citrix, set it up so other companies could work remotely, and VMware, but they would never allow anyone to work there, which was, kind of ironic. Team members cannot develop trust. I think if you set up the right tools, they can definitely develop even more trust than face-to-face, because you don't have some of these social anxieties of walking into a new office or talking to someone that may, look intimidating. A lot of that goes away. Trust does develop just as quickly, especially if you're focusing on skills and maybe your team, you're working on, new code or fixing a bug. Accountability, a lot of companies or people feel there's no accountability. There's a ton of accountability. Working on a virtual team for over 10 years now, you see it. If the person doesn't get their stuff done, because it's so service-based, you know exactly who didn't get it done, and if it was a client project or a client bug, or courses need to be rolled out, it's clear that people didn't get their work done. And when things go wrong, it's because of technology? No. It's usually because of the lack of education around the soft skills they need to do their job with the technology. If you guys have any questions, you can just holler out or type them in. So in 2009, there was a study of 80 global software teams, and it showed that some organizations were seeing a gain of up to 43% in productivity. So who uses virtual teams? And this study was before COVID. I think it was last year. So organizations polled, 46% at the time were using it. Only 28% were US-based, which actually surprised me because Silicon Valley is here. But, and I would have thought that people would be utilizing the technology we have, especially with being a very high-tech country. But 66% of multinational organizations were utilizing virtual team, and organizations with over 10,000, 80% were utilizing them. Again, these were pre-COVID, and these were actually an HRM study in 2013. I have more stats. It was really hard to find current stats because everything is moving so quickly, but this came out from Gallup in the beginning of April, and this shows how many people in America were working remotely as a percentage. And it obviously shows that companies and organizations were trying to adapt, which is great. This also came out of the poll, which shows that 59% of the workers that were now working remotely would like to stay working remotely. So when it comes to managing or being on a remote team, communication is key. And Covey said, the biggest communication problem is that we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply, especially if you're in tech and I have this problem. I want to jump in and answer as quickly as possible. And I really have a problem, or if I'm in a conversation where I'm getting excited, I'll start talking over people, which is horrible. But so I've got to ratchet it down and try to sit and listen and think about, should I speak? Should I speak? But communication, if we look at it, it's really sending information as the communicator, receiving it. So it's like walkie-talkies. You know, you're sending something out, somebody hears it, they receive it. You need to make sure it's simple enough to be decoded. We'll get into a little bit more of that when it comes to people in various different countries, even if they do speak English, or people that don't speak English as their first language. Save your SAT vocab for the social gatherings and make it as simple as possible. If any of you guys have been on either end of tech support, this is exactly it. You want to pretend that you're talking to your grandmother and go, well, what do you mean it's broken? How is it broken? And, you know, try to decipher what the code is and what they're trying to say. So what plays into communication? We have all kinds of different communication skill types. There's none that are better than the others. You have different styles of communication. Again, we're all different. So you're going to find people that don't communicate like you. And that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. When I was running teams and I was director of IT in my late 20s, the hardest thing for me to learn was I was never going to get the same level of work or the same level of quality out of anyone that works for me that I expected out of myself. And it took me like 15 years to learn that, because it was like, why is this so hard? Just do it at this level. But it's the same thing with communication skill types and styles. Everyone's not going to talk or communicate like you. Everyone's not going to have the exact same skills as you do. And then when you start adding various modes of communication in, some of these are better than others at various modes. So just keep that in mind. Communication styles, like I said, nothing is wrong, they're just different. Sometimes you'll have the cheerleader on your team, sometimes you'll have this quiet introvert that just nods, maybe an HR manager type that never says anything negative, or the boss type that speaks loudly, doesn't like seeing anyone not working. Here are some communication styles. I kind of tried to blend a few different ones together. There are, you know, some people go by Myers-Briggs, some people, you know, there's all these different ones out there, strength finders, but really it comes down to about 4. You have your thinker, your socializer, your director, and your empathizer, and everybody falls into somewhere in here. Like you might be on the cusp of some of these, but usually people are a little bit more one than the other. But when you're thinking of the people you work with on your teams, if you know that they're very quiet or they have a sympathetic ear and are always trying to help people, you have to take that under consideration when you communicate with them. And if you're the manager, try to utilize that and motivate them. So if you have someone that likes to help people, give them a task that put a project together. Or if you have someone that really likes to think outside the box, give them something that can utilize their strengths as well. I do have a couple, I was just looking, there are questions popping up. I do have a couple tests for communication styles. There was one that I've used out of Stanford in some of my workshops, And I have just the PDF of it. I can load it up into the class later for you. As soon as we're done, I'll dig that out. And then let's see, as an educator, it is interesting to apply this to my students and parents. Yes, to parents is really interesting. I was the director of the Mothers Club for years, and it was interesting how to manage people that wanted to just take control and run full force, and they didn't mean to, roll over everybody, but that's what they were doing, and trying to help them work within a group of 300 moms without alienating themselves, but to keep their energy going and to be able to utilize it for the group is kind of the similar to parents in classrooms. So this presentation crosses over with my how to manage project management and education, which I've done in the past years for Mountain Moot. And it's figuring out the personalities on your project. But understanding each other. So this one, when I first saw this years ago, made me chuckle because, you're in an office, somebody says, hey, what do you want on your birthday cake? And you're like, nothing, just whatever. And this is what shows up. So if you think about that, let's go to our next game. What type of person do you think heard, yeah, I want nothing on my cake, and turned around and made a cake that says nothing on it? Other than a smartass. Just pick these. Anyone else? We got 2 participants. I can count. Come on, people. There we go. So I think it would be the analytical person. Information in, information out, no rethinking it. But you could argue and tell me I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So let's go to our next question. If this statement that Dale Carnegie said, do you think it's true or false? 90% of all management problems are caused by miscommunication. Thinking about what you've come up against in your organization. And how do we, trying to see if I can see the answers here. There we go. I agree with you guys, true. There. I think a lot of it, even if you look at our households, it's miscommunication. Are we slowing down enough to explain it so whoever doesn't think like you do can understand it? So when we look at virtual teams, nonverbal is visual, so it's gone for the most part. Even if you're using Zoom, you don't get, or any other, virtual meetings, you don't get 100%. I don't even know if you really get 50% of being able to see nonverbal communication. Thinking or speaking turns into messaging when it comes to virtual. Listening turns into reading. So if you have a reading problem, I'm dyslexic, my team puts up with me. Oops, I went back. And thinking is still thinking, but you don't see it. Modes of communication which impact how we communicate. So for using the telephone is the best for bad news and maybe for group interaction. We don't use email. We do, we have to, but I get over 150 to 300 emails a day. If you email me, it's probably going to get lost, or it's going to take me a while to find it. Uh, yeah, like an attorney replying on a phone. It just doesn't happen. I actually have a couple clients that are engineers, and on their voicemail, it says, if you leave me a message here, I may never get back to you. Email me or text me, please, which is pretty funny. But we use, for group interaction, we use Slack for quick responses. We will also text each other if it's even more important if they're not replying on Slack. Distribution, interoffice information. We have group channels for Slacks on various projects, and we have a project system to keep all the information organized. And then there's knowledge bases internally and externally for our clients. And that's how we deal with it internally. But I've worked with multiple clients where one department will use Slack, another department will be using Microsoft Teams, and it's so and fragmented that you never get a good communication platform. And it doesn't matter which one is absolutely the best. The best one is going to be the one that you get full buy-in on from your entire organization. So even if you love Slack and you only have 20% of the people using it, you should probably abandon it if you can't get everyone on it and find something else. So mastering the art of conversation virtually. I think I actually, Jennifer, I think I have that quote somewhere in this actually. So it's easy to get the right point across when you're face-to-face, but getting it over chat and email is really hard because the absence of tone. And the absence of tone is huge. We've all seen a text, and depending on if you got a horrible email or you had to threaten your children with bodily harm to get them to go to school or put their shoes on, the minute you pick up your phone or your computer to work, your mood or your past experiences that day are going to impact your communication on your side, just like it's going to impact everybody else's communication. And I think female communication is worse in some ways because at least I overthink everything. But I'm also very analytical. I also go into projects, and when I introduce myself or I'm on the project, I tell people I'm very direct. I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt or whatever, but I'm very direct. And if we have a lot going on, I'm very quick. And I tell people that ahead of time because being female, other females, if they're more sensitive, will think that I'm being very rude or, the B word, etc., where I'm just project driven when I'm working. And again, the importance is one, absence of tone, but I try to explain how I communicate to people ahead of time to take out, if I'm going to be intimidating or if I'm going to be seen as, not a team player, where I'm just project based. Where more guys are project based. Telling people ahead of time, it really does work. People will be like, "Oh, thanks for telling me that. I, thought you were being mean," or someone will pull me aside and say, "Hey, I just heard so and so thought you were kind of mean," and I'll just go over and tell them, "I'm really, really sorry. That was not my intention," and I'll just take care of it right away. Yeah, there is the paper trail, and I'm a huge proponent of paper trail, especially with clients. So after I have a phone conversation or a meeting, I'll put everything in notes and send it out to people and say, "Hey, here's my notes from our meeting. Please let me know if I missed anything or if anything is incorrect." And And then, if nobody replies, then you have that as a documentation as well. But what I do for conversation is use a lot of emojis, LOL, and take extra time to explain your intent. Um, Being dyslexic also, you can probably tell that I'm stumbling on some words or skipping a word in a sentence. It's just my learning disability, and I try to catch it. Um, but taking the time when I am sending an email, I'll read it twice. If it's really important, I have someone else proof it. I'll put emojis in. So if people did have a horrible day or, you know, were upset about something else and read my email, that they can tell that my intent was not to be aggressive or not to be mean. And that's an important piece is just making sure it's all about intent and getting your work done and their work done. And if somebody uh, gets upset, it will slow down whatever you're trying to accomplish anyway. So take the time to use emojis, LOL, smiley faces, whatever it takes. You really have to bridge the gap of understanding someone on remote teams. So some of the best practices we've come up with over the years. Plain language, again, leave your SAT words at the door, use them for your social events, but just be clear, keep it simple so people know exactly what is expected. Bullet points, I've had team members that I've explained this on. They've written this was actually last summer at one of our retreats. I was working with one of our team members and they wrote an email to a client and I was like, okay, now back it up. She's not going to see any of this. Put it in bullet points or you're only going to get an answer to one of your questions. And I'm notorious for this. You send me an email with a bunch of questions in a paragraph, I'm not going to see it. Reading is not my strong point. I don't read for fun. I'm dyslexic. So I try my best to read, but if it's in bulleted or the questions are numbered, it just makes the life easier for the person that gets it. And you are going to get the answers back. And really, you're putting the time into that email to get your answers. So just bullet it or number it. I always joke, pretend they're your grandma, or pretend they're a 10-year-old. Make it that simple. Yeah, as soon as I see 10 paragraphs, as soon as I see 2 paragraphs, I don't read it. Sorry, people. Use a messaging tool that will allow you to edit. Sometimes I will write 4 or 5 times the one word that I wrote wrong, the first sentence, and then try to correct it, and then try to correct it, and try to correct it. And then half the page is me trying to get that word correct in the first place. So Slack lets you edit. Skype used to. I don't know. I know they stopped when Microsoft took it over. I can't remember if Microsoft Teams uses it, but if you have some sort of quick messaging tool that will allow you to edit what you wrote, it makes it easier for everyone else. Have a glossary of jargon and terms for your internal team. So if you have someone that comes on new to the team, it's a good way to help indoctrinate them or help them feel like they're not part of the group. If you use jargon or if you use, RN for right now or something, a lot of my team will send PETA, like they're a PETA or my dog's a PETA. And so we've had to explain that to some people thinking that they're talking about the bread. Make sure, like I said, you're using the right communication platform. If you don't have buy-in from people, they're not going to be there, so it's not going to be the right, even though it might be the best. Explain it like you're talking to your grandmother, and try to listen to and understand, not to constantly reply quickly. And it's hard to stop and listen. So challenges. What kind of barriers do we come up against managing virtual teams? Biggest one, miscommunication. Company culture. Some cultures don't fit with virtual teams, and you really have to rethink how to do that. Stress and burnout is huge. I would say especially huge in technology, but now with instructors and COVID, there's going to be a lot more stress and burnout there, and there already was. Skills gaps is a huge one. Connecting with team members, micromanagement is a big problem, and inconsistent processes. The more consistency, the more processes you can have in place, the more streamlined your remote team will be and the more cohesive. So here's the quote that, who was it? Jennifer posted earlier. Single biggest problem in communication is that there was an illusion that it actually took place. I like to have people at the end of every meeting, and this is more in my project management presentation that I've done, is never leave a meeting without everyone having tasks and everyone repeats the tasks that we at the wrap up. You don't leave without one, booking a new meeting, and two, allocating or assigning tasks for everybody regarding what the agenda was on. So information that we perceive, and there should be another one of these coming up. So of an actual message, when you're in a face-to-face conversation, how much of the actual message is received? And this was from a study. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to reply here. So it is actually 7%. And this did come out of a study that dealt with communications of feelings and attitudes. I had showed this to my daughter when I was putting the presentation together last year, who is very monotone and not very expressive. She just walked in and she was like, "Oh, I'm screwed," and walked out. So I thought that was funny. So how do you build your company culture when you have remote employees? So let's pop over here again and just enter in kind of a free form. What do you think? And I think, did I click? There we go. This is going to be a word cloud, and if you guys know how this works, the more words that are put in, that you guys put in that are the same, it will make those words bigger than the others. But engagement, checking in, conversations, definitely. Frequent contact. You have to define frequent for whatever you guys are doing, but yes, you have to have regular check-ins and contact, touching base, and everybody's pretty much on the same wavelength here, but with different words. And engagement, definitely. It's all, you know, building your team, checking in, connecting, making sure that people aren't siloed. And we've all been in the office where people are siloed inside the brick and mortar. It's harder and can happen even more often on remote teams. And I'm more concerned about the pandemic that we're in now, because a lot of us were just thrown into the remote water. with no planning, no prepping, no training. Managers are now managing teams with no planning, no prepping, no training. So there's a lot to be concerned about, especially, and we're going to get into that next, is, oops, where did that go? That was weird. Hold on a second. Looks like, let me get down. It looks like PowerPoint running from the cloud did some sort of reboot here. So let me get to where we were. Yeah, siloing is an issue inside and out. All right, let's move on, and hopefully I don't click stop or whatever happened. So how do you build a company culture when you have remote teams? We've seen creating virtual hangout spaces, so not just the Slack channels for work, something for fun. We have the water cooler where people will post pictures of what they did on the weekend or what or their pets. Ongoing communication training is important. Understanding that making sure everyone understands that not everyone communicates the same and they don't process the information they're hearing the same. Offering perks and in-local person opportunities. We do this. I'm trying to do it even more now, where we have Fortech is in Maryland, Montana, Arizona, several places in California. And so if there is an ATD group locally, Daryl's part of Big Sky, and as a company, we paid for that. And then we have if there's an activity or some sort of networking event, we'll send someone to that event, and then at our next meeting have them report back about what happened and train us on what they learned. So instead of having to pay to have everybody go to a conference, you can send one person to the local conference or event and then have them report back. And it also makes them feel important because they're taking notes knowing that everyone else is going to want to hear what they learned. Utilizing time zones for productivity. If you're running a support desk or have clients in various time zones or people working on, say, course design, you can hand it off and have it continue if you have a deadline. And building effective relationships with the team members are important, as we've talked about. So communicating under stress. Our brains work completely different under stress. And with what we're dealing with right now, your best workers are everybody's impacted by stress. So quiet could mean they're depressed or sad, irritated, frustrated, impatient, nervous. That can be caused by stress. Lots of energy in stress conditions could turn into angry or scared, and then overdrive can turn into aggression, anxious, fear, rage. And it's just, out of character when people hit stress at that level. Information fatigue syndrome is actually a thing, and I got this information from one of the medical journals about IT, and this was written up. It can cause poor concentration, diminished productivity. You can get sick, chronic states of irritability, overstimulation, the compulsion to plug in. I think everybody has that if you have to work now online. Traditional stress, IFS can cause just getting sick quicker, and this all leads to burnout. So with burnout, on top of everything else, if you're managing a virtual team, you need to look out for it. Other barriers to look for is skills gaps. The biggest challenge, and the one that really can't be solved, is if one of your team members does not have the skills that are needed to use the technology that you're using as a remote team, they might not be a good person to have on that remote team. As long as everyone's trainable and they're not technically phobic, but if they are and you're up against that, that might not work and it might cause problems in your entire team. So just think about that. Micromanagement is horrible for virtual teams, and it will make people want to hide from you if you're the micromanager. So usually there's a stretch break, but you can get up and dance for 10 seconds if you want, but we're going to move on. By the way, that's my dog in the middle, or used to be. Virtual team members, what do they need? So you need a sense of belonging. Structure, you want to make sure that you're developing their skills, not just for what they need for their job, but also to work remotely. They need to connect with team members. You need to have fun. You need a purpose and recognition, just like all jobs. If you feel like you have a purpose and you're being recognized, if you're the manager of that team, the more purpose and recognition you can give, the better your remote team will work. Biggest struggle with people working remotely, and this came out at the end of last year, so I'm sure it's a little bit different with COVID, but unplugging after work is the top one. I own the company and manage a team of virtual people, along with managing virtual sites and helping companies with their ed tech, from platforms to courses and everything in between. So I am horrible at unplugging. I was sitting on the beach in Chile several years ago when I should have been having fun checking to make sure projects were still moving forward. Distractions at home, that's a hard one. And, you know, it all depends on if you have kids or and such, and have a can hide away. Taking vacation time, you've got to find a way to unplug. And this is coming from the person that's horrible at unplugging. But you have to find a way to unplug. And also finding reliable Wi-Fi is huge. So, and I know we're getting close to the end here. Personality, interests, expectations, what motivates them, strengths, areas of improvement. All of those are important to understand to help them be the strongest virtual team member you can get. So what are some of the ways that you can bring your team together? Oops. If you have some ideas, put them in. Let's see, let's go to the word cloud again. Zoom does work. We are seeing a lot of Zoom fatigue. Fun weekly competitions. Yeah, we've had, make like a while back, we all changed our icons in Slack to superheroes we related with. Or one of my clients has day where people at least have to turn on their camera or change their picture to have a funny hat. Or pet day, where you take a picture of your pet. Formal engagement, games. Yeah, you've got to find a way to create that let's go out after work and have a beer kind of thing, but virtually. So we do virtual happy hours. We do the virtual games. A lot of you have come up with these also. Monthly team member spotlights. We would do something and send it out that had, stuff that nobody knew about somebody, plus, what's their favorite food. Competitions, we use Jackbox and a few other things occasionally. Our last happy hour, it's not in my room right now. We sent everybody a flower pot and they had to paint it. And it went out on our social media feeds and people voted for which flower pot they liked the best. I think Daryl, his daughter, is an artist, and it was obvious that she painted for him. So I actually sent her the reward. um, Provide face-to-face meetings, yearly retreats. We've tried to do retreats. Our biggest retreat was at Mountain Moot in Helena, and we'd all come there. And then we've done retreats up by Yosemite, where my cabin is. Virtual strategy sessions. We use Google Docs for collaboration, and ask their thoughts and ideas of, should we add a new product? Should we change, have someone else be the lead on something? And involve them in goal setting. So just a little bit of information on how to do happy hours, at least the way we do it. We pick a time and date that works for people, and it's usually a couple months out. I do have a list of some virtual games. We use the UPS packs, the little boxes, and we'll fill them with stuff. And this one was decorated on the inside for Halloween as well. And the box will say you can't open it until you actually are on the happy hour. And during the happy hour, we use either Google Hangouts, a Connect, Kahoot, Jackbox, and we'll have, just like we were doing last night, the running, who won, and then after each of the games, my company would send the winner a $10 Amazon card. And this is just some of the screenshots. Jackbox, I think there's like 6 party packs now, and some of the games are better than others. Fibbage, the ones that will do 6 to 8 people have more engagement and interaction than like bracketeering, which will take 16, but it's not as fun, at least in my opinion. These are just pictures of our team outings. Last time we were up in the Sierras, our assistant made us all go get pictures taken, the old-fashioned pictures. So managing, we're right at the end here. For managing a team, you want to make sure that people understand the difference of being at home during working hours versus working remotely. How do you stay healthy? I'm going to skip this one. These are some of the tools we use. Teamwork has been the best project management system for us. And then we use Zoom, Google Drive, Slack, and Adobe Connect for our big trainings. And we do free webinars and some virtual 3D training also. This is our Slack channel, and just some of the stuff that went into the water cooler, and that they were getting their shirts shipped to them and having fun. Then we also have our ticketing system hit our Slack channel in a certain channel to let us know if support tickets are coming in. 21% of businesses today say their leadership is very effective, which means 79% feels it isn't. So think about that. And we're going to hit best practices here. I know we're very close to the end. And this whole, I'll put a PDF up in the course also. But I want to make sure, a few minutes if you guys want to ask any questions. But benefits, this came out of a study that 36% of people would rather be able to work remotely than get a raise, which was the huge one. And 46% of companies allow telecommuting, say, that has reduced people leaving the company. And these were also pre-COVID. So outcomes, you get happier employees, productive employees, cost savings. You actually lower your carbon footprint, and you get more talent since you're not just stuck to one area. This website's pretty cool, Global Workplace Analytics. You can put in the number of employees, how many hours they telecommute, and it will give you a breakdown of how much money you're saving. This showed the article that this was written in, and it was Kate Lister, president of Global Workplace, if you want to look it up, showed that during COVID that employers were saving up to $30 billion a day. So do you guys have any questions? You can unmute or you can type. And have I missed any questions? How do you manage employment expectations so workers are not feeling obligated to work all the time? We do project bases. If we have a deadline, some of us will be working like 12 hours that day. But then once the deadline is over, I'll say, hey, I'm going to take the day off, or they will. Because it's project-based and we're working with clients, I'm fine if you want to get all your work done in the middle of the night and take the day off, as long as the work is getting done for me. But I'm different than that. So Daphne, if you want to stop the recording, I think we've got 3 minutes. Anybody else? Do you guys want to talk?
Yeah, I've got a question. This is Lang. How do you...
Okay, why can't I hear you? I was having this problem earlier.
Sorry, guys, I have another meeting on 12, so I have to run. And I already made Catherine as a host.
Okay, let me see if I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me
yes, now? I can totally hear you.
Hopefully this will be fairly quick, but I mean, what are your ideas and thoughts that as organizations, companies do start having a savings from not having to spend on, facilities and, other logistics, what type of positive effect could that have towards the team members?
Hopefully that company would be turning the money around and, having, like, what I do is make sure that people are a member of the local ATD group or local groups, and also, ship them. We ship out little boxes of stuff. It could also be things to help them in their office, or now that you're not paying for office space or office supplies, maybe the company should be shipping a certain amount or giving people a credit of $30 a month on Amazon to buy what they need for their office. And you're probably saving hundreds and hundreds, so why not turn that around in gift cards for Amazon or something for people to help make their office better at their house?
I agree, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Bueller?
Catherine, this is Jennifer.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of chime in that when somebody asked about employment expectations, I think the important thing besides a boss managing those expectations is the employee themselves setting those expectations and those barriers themselves as well. I know as an educator, you know, whenever you're out in public, you have people coming up wanting to talk about their child or issues in school, and just really setting that precedence. I know I'm very strong that way, where I say, hey, you know, feel free to call me. My office hours, you know, I am willing to meet with parents after school from 3:30 to 4. You have other employees where they have parents knocking on their doors on the weekends wanting to talk to them about school issues. So I think just as important as a manager setting those expectations for an employee is the employee themselves either having a conversation with the manager or just, you know, looking at themselves and saying, you know, what am I comfortable with? I know with all of this, like my sister's a paralegal working from home, and a lot of times she's getting stuff after the quote unquote 5 o'clock quit time. So she takes 2 hours off during the day, whether it's to like go outside, read a book, go on a walk, because she knows that she's going to have to work later into the night. So for her to keep her sanity, that's how she works that. So
Yeah,
I think it's just as, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say part of that is the communication training and the team training to make sure that, you know, that person is not letting themselves be walked all over, and that they're working 15 hours a day regularly. And that's usually your people pleaser, or someone that, you know, doesn't have enough confidence to say, I'm not working right now, or give them the tools, which again is communication training, to say, yes, I can get that done. When do you need that done by? I've already worked 8 hours. Or we use T-sheets.
Well, it's just a self-advocacy piece. And I mean, that comes just with experience and time and maturity and whatnot. But again, just, I think even as a manager, just telling your employees like, hey, you have the ability, this, you know, to say, no, I can't do this right now, or I've got to do this. These are your expectations. Let me know how you're able to make this done, but feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, and I think as a manager to train people or give them a set, like a cheat sheet of say this, you know, you're not sure how to say no, here's 4 statements you could use, you know, because
exactly.
You just don't, you have all different kinds of personalities. So,
yeah. So that was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you. So, if you guys, we are past the time, but I am happy to hang out and pick my brain for a while. Otherwise, I will find you guys later. And make sure you fill out the evaluation. You also get coins for that as well if you want to buy some of the swag later. And I will be posting the PDF and the personality skill set that I was talking about, or the simple test that you can give if you have team members and you want to do something like that. So have a great day, and I will hang out here.
Thanks for this session. It was so far the best one I've had so far. In this
really?
Yeah, this one blew my socks off. So.
Oh, thank you. I've been doing it for free and listing it on LinkedIn, and we were only getting like 2 or 3 people at a time. And I was like, maybe no one likes it.
You know, I actually thought it was really good because I labor in industry here in Montana and more of a workplace, trying to bring Moodle to my workplace. So, and then being forced out to work remotely, where I only did it 1 or 2 days a week to concentrate on project work. Now it's full time, so it's kind of really nice. Some of the stuff that you brought in and home and zeroed in on. So.
It's hard, and because we were thrown, I mean, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years, but people thrown into this with no plan, you know, it will impact their mental health, their productivity, everything.
Well, and then being government, the government really has never ever thought that was a good idea, and then now it was kind of a force, like, well, you've got a laptop, don't come back to the office till we tell you to. So it's been really interesting. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, we've been doing a presentation for companies also, like if you want, you know, if you think having me come in and talk to your department or something.
Yeah, it's you're one of the 2 people that I've been bugging my management to, because your last session yesterday, I can't remember.
Oh, finding the right LMS?
Yes, thank you. Because we're trying to use Moodle, and I'm trying to learn it so we can bring that to Montana labor and industry, but connect it more to the workplace as opposed to teaching students at the college or 12 and under level, because it is slightly different. So that's why I'm here the second go around. But yeah, so you're one of two people that have been pushing on my management.
Well, get my email address, or I can type it in here for you, and
sure. Yeah,
you can contact me anytime.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate this session so far. I joined another session the first 15 minutes, and I was like, okay, I completely misunderstood what this was, because there was a few buzzwords in the descriptor of the course, IEP, which in my workforce development parlance is individual employment plan, but apparently it's a student plan too or something.
It's independent education plan, and it's for students with disabilities.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm completely lost. I'm just going to leave this one, and I got to make sure that the guy knows it wasn't his content. I didn't think it was what I thought it was. So, but yeah, so this one was great. I just appreciate that. So thanks so much.
Cool. Well, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.